In Tiki's case, they are wildly celebrating a championship. So the championship drought of New York, New Jersey has ended because of the Barber family. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Evan. You left out the important part. The last time that district won the championship, spring of 94.
You know what? I have to admit, and I think you know me now, as when I want to put the hat on, I am an independent observer.
Oh, yeah.
And for this postseason, because my teams suck, I am an independent basketball observer. And in the case of hockey, I'm an independent hockey observer. In fact, I just watched my team lose in 5 to a really good, feisty Carolina Hurricane team.
Huh, so you're an IHO.
I'm an IHO, yeah. I like that. I should make a T-shirt. And I say this as an IHO, and you may choose not to believe me. The audience may choose not to believe me, but I can tell you right now what I'm about to tell you comes from the perspective of an IHO. I think the New York Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh.
I do. I genuinely...
The reverse jinx is in.
No. There's no reverse jinx. First of all, there's no such thing as a reverse jinx. All right? Let's put that out of our minds. I sat there yesterday on a wonderfully ugly Sunday afternoon after Edwin Diaz hung a slider, and I watched 2.5 hours of hockey. And I watched it from a perspective where, I'll be honest with you, I want your team to lose. I want the team that just beat my team to win. And I know how good Carolina is. And I know how dangerous they can be. They can be down 3 goals. They can erase a deficit in 5 minutes. I watched the Ranger response, and I'll tell you exactly the moment where I thought to myself, holy crap, they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Can I tell you?
Sure, F.
You tell me as a Ranger fan if you buy this.
Yeah.
So, yes, Mika plays like a superstar early. You guys jump out, and you're off to a great start. You know what proved to me the moment where I said, holy bleep, they're going to win the Stanley Cup? When Tampa Bay gets the gift from the gods on the delayed game of penalty, where they get a power play in the final minute of this game. What did I say?
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. I got my head screwed up because they knocked my team out twice and your team out once. Carolina. Tampa Bay's already gone. The Panthers took care of them.
Bad early flub for an IHO here.
Yes. So when they had that 6-on-4 advantage, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be like what they did to the Islanders. They're going to erase a 2-goal deficit late, and despite how well the Rangers have played for the first 58 minutes of the game, it's not going to matter. And the Rangers won yet another face-off in the final 2 minutes of this game, in which, if I'm not mistaken, they won 5 face-offs in the final 2 minutes of this game. They win the face-off.
With their best face-off guy, Trocheck, the one who took the delay game in the box.
That's right. So it's not even Trocheck out there, who's been awesome and had a goal in this game as well.
Right.
So immediately, not only do they win the faceoff, it leads to a brutal Carolina penalty, which basically negates the 6-on-4 they have. And that's when I looked around and I said, let me tell you something about these sons of bitches. The Carolina Hurricanes have been great on the penalty kill. Not on Sunday. The Carolina Hurricanes have been great with the man advantage. Not on Sunday. And the New York Rangers, who earlier this season struggled in faceoffs, win 5 straight faceoffs. They win the biggest one of the game that changes everything about the final 30 seconds. They basically force Carolina into that tripping penalty. And I looked to my dad, who's an IHO just like me, and he's an Islander fan. And I said, I think we're screwed. They've won 5 in a row to start the postseason. They're playing excellent hockey. Their stars are playing well. You know the last time the Rangers won their first 5 postseason games?
Spring of 94.
Spring of 94. So now it's popping into my head. And the reality is this. This is talking straight from the heart, straight from just watching, straight from being honest. I think they're going to win the freaking Stanley Cup. And I know that's exciting for you and exciting for 80% of the audience. I say it with pain. I say it with worry. But I got to tell you, I actually think it's going to happen.
Look, you could talk about jinxes, mushes, don't touch the money, as Boomer likes to say, one shift, one whatever. If you were not on board and you were scared to admit it, I think yesterday afternoon was a major wake-up call to everybody. Not that the series is going to be easy, because yesterday was, as we like to say in the biz, a cheek tightener for many, especially late. But everything you just mentioned, the fact that they get that penalty, which, by the way, that happened twice in the Capitals series, where the Capitals got a power play late or the Rangers drew a power play late, and it negated the empty net. But even Panarin's answer after the game gets tight to score like that. He has 3 game-winning goals in the postseason, leading the league. And all their big stars are answering. Igor Shesterkin led in, I thought, not 1 but 2 soft goals He's not going to do that the rest of the series. That was a gut punch effort from Carolina, and they still could not come out on top. And these are the two best teams in hockey. I don't care what anybody says. And for the Rangers to have an answer like that, off of no rust, by the way, a week off, that did them good. I think it's time for this city or any Ranger fan who is scared to admit it to embrace it. The expectations for this team now, if they weren't already, is raise that cup.
Look, they had a tremendous regular season. And when you win the President's Trophy like they did, you come with huge expectations into the postseason. But all year long, I felt a trepidation, not necessarily from you, because you're a very cocky sports fan. I respect that. I mean, that's fine. I'm not like you. You're very, very different. But I heard it from Ranger fans, almost this pause of, we're good, but we need to make a big move at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. We're good, but Panarin needs to show up in the postseason. We're good, but what about Igor? Which Igor shows up in the playoffs? Look, they have a long way to go. I acknowledge that. They're 11 wins away from winning a Stanley Cup. But I sat there yesterday afternoon. I can't be the only one, especially you Ranger fans, where you had that little dopey smirk on your face. That smirk of, I can picture that parade down the Canyon of Heroes. And that's always the most difficult thing to do as a sports fan. Can you picture it? And I know as a fan, there have been many times where I've enjoyed teams, but I really can't picture it. I just can't see them winning a championship. And I sat there yesterday, and maybe it's because you're facing a real team. Maybe it's because you're facing a team that disposed of my team. Maybe it's because your stars came up as big as they did. Maybe it's because you were so good, so freaking good on the penalty kill, which I know you've done all year, but now you're doing it against Carolina, who is the best team in hockey with the man advantage. But Ranger fans, be honest with me. And this is not about jinxing your team or touching the money. It's not about that. It's about, do you believe? Because I kind of believe. I kind of believe they're that damn good. And I believe on that Sunday afternoon on a rainy day at Madison Square Garden, if you were in the building yesterday night, early evening, and you were walking out of MSG, you probably had the same thinking I was having, except my thinking was based more on fear. Your thinking's based on more celebration. This team can win a cup, and that scares the crap out of me. Because the New York Rangers winning the state, that only happens once every 80 years. That's not supposed to happen again.
We got a drought to snap. 30 years, and we have a New York sports drought to snap. And by the way, Evan, the other thing that should be mentioned yesterday, the Rangers surviving what I thought was horrible officiating that usually does them in. Boomers pressed the Ranger screw button there. They were screwed yesterday.
You're talking about the Rempe penalty?
The Rempe penalty and Trocheck getting high sticked in the face, bleeding, no call there. There was a litany of disasters from officiating, which isn't a part of the story, but the reason it is part of the story is to survive that and still win. That is the sign of a team that can win a championship, when instead of playing the blame game afterwards, you look back and say, we won in spite of those things. The team's for real. There's no hiding from it. There's no running from it. The only question now is how sunny and what is the temperature at the day of the parade, Evan? That's where we're at. 82? What do we think, 82 degrees?
You go too far. I mean, you're already scouting the weather forecast 82? For the parade?
Not a cloud in the sky? That's what I'm looking for.
I remember the run the Rangers made a decade ago. And they got to the Stanley Cup final, and they played that classic against the Kings. It really was a classic, despite losing in 5, because 3 of the 5 games went to overtime.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I remember sitting there that year, and I wasn't scared. Like, I kind of knew in the back of my mind they were going to come up short, and maybe that was trusting the L.A. Kings. Maybe that was the respect I had for Jonathan Quick and really the rest of that roster. But this season, and I think a lot of it is how good they were in the regular season, and a lot of it is what they were able to do in Game 1 in a series in which they get no freaking respect. I mean, the fact they're underdogs in this series, look, at the end of the day, does it really matter? Not really. But I'm just looking at it as an IHO saying, should you be underdogs? Considering you won this division, considering you won the President's Trophy. I know Carolina's good, trust me. I just lost to Carolina. I get it. They got talent all over the place. But there is a scared feeling I have in the pit of my stomach where they actually can win the Stanley Cup, and I'm almost expecting them to do it.
So where do we go? City Hall, you think we get propped up outside?
I don't remember what happens during parades. Do you want to remind me? Because I don't remember.
No, I look, it's been a long time, but we should start prepping ourselves now. Let Tiki know, just meet us in Lower Manhattan. Let's go already. Look, Evan, it's time to embrace it. Fans need to stop being scared. The team's big stars are scoring. Artemi Panarin is scoring. And, oh, by the way, they were underdogs because everybody complained. They don't score enough goals 5-on-5. It's all about the special teams. Right off the bat, bang, Mika with the 5-on-5 goal, Panarin late with the 5-on-5 goal. That has been exorcismed, if you will. Mm-hmm. We're not worried about that anymore. Ranger hockey taking over the town.
I think the other reason why, because the Rangers have had good runs. This isn't like one of those weird Nick things where you almost have to remind yourself that this is new, but it's real. Because the Knicks haven't had and I don't mean that as a shot, but for 25 years, they didn't do much. That's why every other week Knicks fans say, we're back, we're back, we're back, we're back. You are back.
Right, we outside.
You don't have to say it anymore. We know you're back. For the Ranger fan, you've had runs. And during the Henrik Lundqvist era, I think the reason deep down, as a Ranger hater, I admit that, so I'm coming from a different perspective, but I think the reason I never feared you guys winning a Stanley Cup was because every series was a war. Every series was a battle. Even when you would get out of the first round, it would take 7 games. Yeah. Even when you'd get to the conference finals, it would take 7 games. I think the thing that is so unique to me as an IHO is outside of that round against Nashville in 2006, where let's be honest, we weren't even that good that year, the Rangers have always had difficulty going on that run.
It was Atlanta. It was Atlanta.
What did I say?
Nashville.
Yeah, no, I meant Atlanta. Same thing.
The Sunbelt hockey cities are throwing you for a loop today, Ev.
Yeah, that's right. Atlanta. Now, then they moved. They don't even exist anymore. The Atlanta Thrashers. Which Canadian team are they now? Quebec?
Winnipeg.
Well,
Winnipeg? There is no Quebec. You want to get the T-Wolves Nuggets here, Ev? I mean, jeez.
That's funny. There should be a Quebec, though. They should definitely bring the Nordiques back, man. But every round would always be a battle.
Of course.
And I think seeing them take care of Washington as quickly as they did, and now taking a game one they needed to take, especially with the adversity they had, I think that's another part why I look at this team and say they're probably going to do it.
Well, and Evan, when you go back 10 years ago when they made the Cup or the Lundqvist era, the reason it's the Lundqvist era is because a lot of it was all about Henrik Lundqvist. Their big star was Rick Nash, who never scored a timely goal the way Artemi Panarin does or Mika Zibanejad does. And when they're in a Game 6 versus Montreal trying to make a cup, it's a fourth liner named Dominic Moore scoring 2 goals. The Rangers have firepower, and they've paired it with an awesome goalie, Igor Shesterkin. This is, by far, without a shadow of a doubt, and they're not even in a conference final yet, roster-wise, paper-wise, the best team the Rangers have had since 1997, at least, when they made that conference final.
The one thing
that is how good they are.
You touched on it early. You whined like a little baby about some of the calls that went against you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd agree with the Rempe one. I mean, he was clearly pushed into the goaltender, so I don't think that should have been a penalty on him.
He got 2 minutes for being Matt Rempe.
You guys think that's what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
He got a reputation penalty?
Yes.
To being a giant slug?
Now, he is an uncoordinated, dare I say, animal.
That's why I called him a giant slug. Yeah, yeah.
But
I thought I had a good description.
He is at the point now where if anybody falls down around him, it's going to be a penalty, which is going to be another big issue.
So you'd bench him just because he's like a magnet for these penalties?
I mean, let's get to that right now. I think if I am the New York Rangers, I would have seen the last of Matt Rempe, at least in this series, and then you could reevaluate if you need that sandpaper again in the next series. But I think with as good as Carolina's power play was all year, and they weren't yesterday 0 for 5, that special teams could make or break a game like this. If I was the Rangers and you've had Filipino basically coming back from concussion, circumventing the salary cap here, the NHL, if you have him ready, I would sit Rempe down. And, oh, by the way, today at practice, I just saw this pop. Matt Rempe was skating as an extra, not one of the main 12 forwards. So maybe that is a move Peter Laviolette is considering.
The one thing, if you give Carolina 4 or 5 opportunities with the man advantage, you're probably not going to hold them down this entire series. So they did a great job in game 1 of doing that. Their penalty kill was tremendous. But, yeah, especially if it's cheapy calls or if it's legitimate calls, it doesn't freaking matter. It's going to be very difficult to survive Carolina if you give them 4 or 5 penalty opportunities, power play opportunities throughout a game. You're right about that.
But that being said, they held Alex Ovechkin without basically a shot on any power play, no points in the first round, and held that power play to 0 for 5, including, by the way, a penalty where Kreider was in the box, Trocheck. Those are some of their best penalty killers, too. You're right. It's a ticking time bomb, but at the same time, the Rangers shorthanded right now have been dynamite, and that's another difference as to why they're 5-0 in the postseason.
And it's a part of the reason why I'm scared. For the Islander and Devil fan out there, are you scared? And for the Ranger
fan, sunscreen on the nose at the parade?
What was that?
You going sunscreen on the nose at the parade?
I'm not touching you talking about the parade because you're going to piss off Ranger fans. They're not even going to turn on me and say I'm a jinx.
50?
They're going to be mad at you. They're going to look at me and say, Evan's just being honest. He thinks the Rangers are good. They're going to look at you as a jinx. I ain't the jinx. You're the jinx.
Jinxes don't exist. Bring those brooms to Raleigh.
I wouldn't go that far either. But I will admit, as an Islander fan, I'm scared. And for the Ranger fan, do you believe? Because this very well could be the season. Because we know the Knicks aren't winning a title, so you may as well be the team to bring a championship
so you really
to New York City.
You don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. This is about propping up the Rangers. This is not about being passive-aggressive and knocking the Knicks.
You know what? You're right. And when we come back to and fix the wrong I just made, I'm going to have a fun debate with everybody. And that is, who has more people at their parade? The New York Knicks or the New York Rangers? Because you're right. I shouldn't say the Knicks can't win a title. Let's break down parades. 877-337-66.
Who gets the sunnier day?
We'll get to your calls coming up next. Ranger fans, we'll get to the Knicks as well. Who's to blame for the Met issues? The roast of Tom Brady. Plus, I'm so excited for this. You could write it down on your little calendar, 4:30 today. We are going to do a deep dive on one of the weirdest things going on right now in the NBA playoffs. The two voices of Tyrese Halliburton. Knick fans, you don't want to miss it. 877-337-6666.